been having a play this week with some alternatives to the big traditional etching press. Now, that's not to say, the big traditional etching press isn't kind of the top. I saved up for years and years to get my own in my studio, and I also teach and work in a print studio where we have big, traditional etching presses, and I would always choose to work on a traditional etching press. But there are alternatives out there, because I'm well aware that not everybody has the funds to buy the big press or the space to store and work with a big press. So these die cutting machines are a fantastic alternative. They are compact, store away easily, and they work in the same way that an etching press would. So the ones that I've got hold of are readily available, all secondhand from eBay. Some are discontinued, but the principle is the same. They all have a roller and a handle and a bed that you can push through. They all come with different size beds that you can make, and these available from Handprinted are extended beds. So there are things out there that you can use to make these die cutting machines work in a similar way to the etching press. So I'll show you a little bit more. This is the Xcut, this is the Sizzix, and this is called a Cuttlebug. There are loads of alternatives as well out there. They all have benefits, they all have problems. They're not as durable, they are plasticky and a bit clunky, but my God, they make fantastic prints in the same way that an etching press would. These were all made on this one, but I'll show you all the different ways, and I'll show you how I set them up and how I work with them. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is the Cuttlebug. Very cute, looks like a handbag. It's it's the smallest one, but it's fairly sturdy. These flap down, and that actually makes it feel even more sturdy. It comes with this very small bed, but you could easily, if you look at the width, cut yourself out of MDF or a chopping board. You could cut a longer bed, but for now we'll just use this as it comes. And I could measure the sides to show you, but again, you need to do all that. You need to figure out what you're trying to print with and how to make it work. So I found these bits of felt. You can see they are quite fairly thick felt, and I had some thinner felt too. So I cut myself lots so that I could play with the levels of blankets. How many does it need? Does it work with one blanket? Does it work with two? Does it work with three? And if you think about the thickness of your plates, so if I was going to use this collagraph, you've got your plate, your paper to go on top, and then newsprint and the blanket, and then you've got to make it go through. So these don't have an adjustable dial. If you can see, I'll try and do a close-up, I suppose, but it's just a fixed pressure. So we need to make the pressure so that the wheels touch as they go through. And I say I found that the best way to do that was with you've got the plate down, the paper on top, and then I built it up with layers of newsprint and tissue paper, and then blankets, perhaps 2 blankets. And I actually found that putting the extra cutting mat on top meant that when I pushed it through, let's try, yes, it was giving me the pressure that I needed. And I went through 1 or 2 times, and that worked. But again, if I then used a thinner plate, so this Drypoint plate is very, very thin, I needed to add an extra blanket. You can feel the pressure I don't think this will go through now. I think that's too... Oh yeah, ooh. Ooh, yeah, I mean, I can feel that is tight. You want it to feel like it's really, really pushing. It shouldn't be easy. Again, because it's like a direct contact thing between the paper and the plate, it's gonna feel hard. But if we look at, yeah, that was the print I got. So really beautiful detail, little bit of imperfections in there, but perhaps I could make that better with my inking. And then the Cuttlebug for the Drypoint plate was fantastic. Really good detail, really crisp embossing. That's another good way to see the pressure. But yeah, I was very impressed. So I'll do a live demo now, but that is the principle of what you're trying to do. You've got your bed, your plate inked up, the paper on top, and then you're building a sandwich of layers until you get enough pressure. And it might take a few goes to get that pressure right. Again, depending on your plate. Every plate's different. If it's a really, really thin plate, you're going to need more pressure. Thicker plate, less pressure, but you might need it to be more soak the paper longer so it goes down and round all the cracks and crevices. But I'll do it. I'll ink up the plates and then we'll have a go at printing with this. I'm going to ink up these plates just to show you very quickly. I'll speed this bit up because you know how to ink. Right, so I've got some water for soaking paper, and I've cut my paper. Again, a lot of this is preparation, isn't it? You need to prepare your plate, obviously, to fit in, and your paper to fit over your plate, but to fit within the boundaries of the press bed that you've got. You can go right, up to the edge, but if you are overlapping, you're going to risk it kind of all getting caught up and scrumpled as it goes through. Practical advice as well would be the paper shrinks as it dries, so it's always worth trying to go in the middle of the paper. You can trim it down afterwards if you've got a tiny little plate, but you play. Again, there's rules. Break them, see what happens. But practically, you need to be able to go through this gap. So I have cut myself, oops, sorry, loud. I've cut myself newsprint to be able to go over it. And that's to protect the blankets, but also to help add a little bit more cushioning, because it's amazing what a few sheets of newsprint could do. Tissue paper, the same, sort of all adding cushioning to push it around. And then remember, we've got all these different blankets and this cutting mat that comes with the Cuttlebug that I think, certainly from my experience, I've found it works best if you put this on top. But that's counterintuitive because usually you would want the soft blankets. But again, play, see what you've got. So I will soak the paper for, now this is Snowden cartridge 300 GSM. I find that's a good workhorse student quality paper. It's good for soaking. It becomes very malleable and it will go through the etching presses. Again, experiment with paper. What you can't use with any printmaking is really, really thin paper. It will just tear. But experiment. See what you've got. See what will work. So I'm going to soak this paper for just 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Okay, so now the paper's soaked, I'm going to take off the excess water, because what you want is damp paper, not soaking wet paper. And then I'm just going to put it in between some blotting sheets. You can use clean tea towel, anything you want. Again, you will be experienced in your own studio space how you do this. So now I'm going to put this down, but I don't want to be moving it around because it will smudge. So I've got to commit, put it down. So then I'm going to put a couple of sheets on top to protect the blankets. And this is trial and error. Again, I don't know exactly what's going to work. So 2 sheets of newsprint, one of the thinner blankets, one of the thicker blankets. Let's try it like that and I'll show you what happens. I am going to put this on top because it just seemed to work better for this Cuttlebug, but again, you will experiment. So I'm going to go through. Now, light, that feels far too light for me. So what I'll do is show you. You see, I can do it like that. Really, I want it to feel extreme pressure. So now if I'm very careful, I should be able to peel back and then put the paper down again so you can see. So it's worked, but it's very, very light. If I put this back, so that was 2 blankets. So now I'm going to put on a 3rd blanket and then this cutting mat on top. And let's try again. So it's really thick now. It might be difficult to get it to go through. Okay, I'm getting it through, but I can feel that is, yeah, that's the kind of pressure I want to feel. I'll go through twice. The risk with going through several times is the plate moves, but I'm going to risk it. Okay, so that felt better. Take the 2 blankets off, 3rd blanket off, newsprint. I can see that there's some serious good embossing going on, so yeah, I'm going to take it off now. I think it will have worked. Yeah, I mean, that is excellent. It's just exactly as I would expect. A little bit of the whites there, just that's the inking the first time I've inked it up, so next time I ink it up they would be filled in. So let's try. So that is the collagraph. So let's try the same thing with a Drypoint plate. Okay, so I'm going to soak the paper and then layer it up again. We have our damp paper. and put it over the plate. Now this is a larger plate, so just need to make sure, try and get it central. I'm going to put down a few of these because, like I say, it's bizarre, but layers of newsprint do make a difference to the pressure. This time some tissue as well. So the learning we've done is we know from the collagraph we needed all 3 blankets and the top layer. So this is a thinner plate, so we're definitely going to need all 3 blankets and the top layer, and maybe a few more layers of newsprint, but we will see. So the difficulty is getting this sandwich to and from the press, but with practice you can do it. Okay, there we go. It's just because I'm doing it back to front, it's hard for me. Right, so once it's going through, so we'll go through, I might go through 4 times this time because it's a very thin plate. Okay, So what you don't want to do is just sort of pull it all off quickly. You've got to be careful so you don't smudge, because the inky plate is inky. I mean, we've got some serious embossing there. I don't think we could get any better than that, but let's have a look. Oh, yes. Brilliant. So it's picked it up beautifully. Could play with the inking. I did it very quickly so you could really pull out some whites. But yeah, that's good. So that is our Drypoint. Now we're just going to do one more with a metal etching plate, just so I can show you that it works just as well. So I'll soak the paper. Centrally and not move it, just commit. This time I've got some tissue, some newsprint, and some more tissue. It's a thin plate similar to the Drypoint, so we're going to have all 3 blankets and the top plate. So it's going to be very, very thick. You can see the sandwich we've made. I mean, and obviously you could make that thicker so you don't need this top plate. There's lots of playing you can do. So let's see if I can make this work. It's a bit cack-handed because I'm trying to do it from the front. I'll do it from the back because I can push. There we go. So I'm sort of pushing in at the same time as turning the handle. So it's just a bit, I need 2 hands. That pressure feels good. I'll go 4 times again. You can see I am actually having to turn this. It's not easy. I don't know how many times that is. Maybe 6 times we'll go for this one because it's an etching plate is very delicate. So now we'll catch it as it comes out. Okay, so let's have a look. Get the blankets off and all of the tissue and the paper. Oops. Yeah, we can see we've got, you know, a good embossing. So we're not going to have got any stronger embossing like that. It's now just to do with the inking. And I mean, that is a lovely print. So we've got, if we move all this out the way, yeah, we've got a collagraph, a Drypoint, and an etching plate, all printed on the Cuttlebug. Right, so the big shot. It's not called the big shot, is it? No, it's just called the Sizzix. Oh no, it is Sizzix, a big shot. It's not very big though, is it? So this one, we've got the bed, the base, we've got the rollers in there and a handle. So it comes with this rather elaborate kind of design of how you use it, but actually it does add millimeters to the base, so I've turned it over to use it that way. We've got some newsprint that I've cut to the size, tissue again, and so the big long blanket, but just to add some extra, I'm going to put a smaller blanket over the area where the plate is. So we're going to print a collagraph, a Drypoint, and an etching again. So I would put down a clean piece of newsprint and an inked plate, and then I've pre-soaked some of the paper save some time. So I've got some damp paper that I have soaked and blotted off. And so we'll put that over the top of the etching of the collagraph plate. Don't want it to move. Newsprint over the top of that. Little bit of tissue where the plate is. And I'm going to put the smaller blanket over where the plate is, and the paper, and the larger blanket over the whole thing. And then we're going to see if I can get it to go through. Maybe we'll go through this way. So again, similar to the other one, it's difficult holding all that sandwich together without everything moving. But once we've got in, yeah, and I can feel that doesn't feel very pressured to me. So I already think we're going to need another blanket. So we will do a little test without revealing the whole thing, just to check that I was right, because you can feel it. If it doesn't feel pressured, it's probably not taking a very good print. So yeah, similarly, it's pale. So I'm going to get another small blanket and we'll put that over the top. So let's try with this. We'll go straight for another thick one. And we've got another 2 we could use, but let's try just with 2. So that's now, yeah, 1, 2, 3 blankets. Oops, my fault. I was turning the wrong way. Okay, so I can feel the pressures a bit stronger, but I reckon I want even more. So I'm going to try one more. I'll have a little look. Certainly for the other plates. Oh, I mean, the pressure's fairly good. I'm going to try that just with one more thin blanket. So you can see the logic here is we're just building up the layers and seeing what's possible. This might be too thick now, but for the dry point plate we're about to use, we might definitely need this. So I'm pushing. Oh, that's sorry. I keep turning the wrong way. Yeah, I mean, that feels hard now to turn, which is good. That's what I want. So we will just go through twice. And let's have a look now. We'll commit to that now because I think that's all the pressure we're going to get out of this one. And you can see, too many layers. Oh, struggle with my layers. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you, that the embossing is good and strong, possibly even too strong. You'd have to play. There's a little bit of creasing. I mean, that is a nice print. Really nice print. So let's do the same thing with a dry point plate. Like I said, I can see there's a strong emboss. So let's have a look at the print. Oh, yes. I mean, that is lovely. Again, I could do better inking. I'm rushing all this process just to see you, but to show you. But yeah, the lines have come out beautifully, crisply. So one more. Let's do the etching plate and then compare them all. we've got really good embossing. Can't get any better pressure than that. So if it's slightly weak, that might mean that my inking were wiped off too much. But no, it's beautiful. It's perfect print. Yeah, I wouldn't get much better from the big etching press. So this is the Xcut Express. Really, really good machine this. They are discontinued, but you can find them second hand. People are spending a lot of money on them now because they are absolutely brilliant. Because not only have they got the bed and the rollers and the handle, they've got a pressure dial. So you can adjust the pressure, which is incredible, because it means you can print all manner of thickness of plates and you can keep adjusting up and down. It's exactly like you would an etching press. I'll just show you how neat and tidy it is because it's such a clever little design as well. Whoops. Clever little design for storage, so they're really neat and discreet. I mean, there you go. Really, really nice. This bed is made by Handprinted, so it's an extended bed. The bed it comes with is just an A4 bed, but by buying this small kit, which comes with a blanket, you've got a ready-made press. But say you could easily cut yourself one out of MDF or a chopping board. So I'll just set this one up again. So you would put it down, take off these sections and lock the base into place. Lock it in place, and then you've got a ready-made surface to put your bed through, and then this goes and it literally says up or down. Can you see it moving? So if you were putting a really thick plate through, you can move it up, and a thinner plate, you can move it right down. And when it makes contact, it's actually moving the bed for you. You obviously need to add your blanket, and you would need to consider your plate, damp paper, newsprint on top, blanket down, and then you would play with the pressure to make sure it would all go through. When it makes contact, you want to feel it working. And so, yeah, the downside is it's clunky. It's not going to last 100 years the same way a cast iron etching press would. But I think they're incredible, these things, and they certainly make beautiful prints. The other benefit is it's much wider. So it's 21 centimeters wide. And obviously you can get really long pieces of paper through it. So you could consider making some sort of constant. I mean, you could do that with all of them. You can have long. You're only restricted by the width. But this is a 21 centimeter width, which is fantastic. The Sizzix, I think there is one called, don't quote me, but like Big Shot Pro that is wider. And there are other die cutting machines that get wider. So that's good. I will ink up and show you a print on this one and how I would adjust my layers and the pressure. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Xcut. I've got the plates inked up, I've got the paper pre-soaked. So what we need to do with this, we've got to say this is an adjustable pressure dial, which is a huge benefit. I don't know if you can see in there, it's going up and down. And obviously with the other ones, we built up the thickness and the pressure by adding more blankets. So with this one, instead, we're going to dial the pressure down and try and get the pressure to feel right. Again, we want it to feel hard work when it's going over the sandwich we make. Sandwich. So I will open up the bed and put down some clean newsprint. Remember, on this bed you can actually go wider. You can go up to 21 centimeters. I'm going to stick with the same plates and the same size paper so you can see, but you can with an Xcut print just a little bit wider. So inked plate, ink facing up, down, and then we'll get I've pre-soaked this paper just for speed. So I just need to blot off the excess, and then made it mucky already. It's a very mucky process, printmaking, always covered in something. So commit. I am going to put a couple of sheets over the top, just because I know from experience that does help with the pressure. So now our paper and plate is here. So we're going to want to go backwards and forwards over that middle section. I'm going to turn it all the way down and let's see, and we'll work back from there. It looks to me like that's on 3.5 out of interest, but yours is going to be different depending on the thickness of your plate, the thickness of your blanket, the thickness of your paper. There you go. I can feel that. I mean, that feels almost too much, so I might just loosen that. Oh, hang on, how do I do it? Yeah, up is that way. Yeah, to 4, and then I'll go back through. So that feels good. I could feel that clunking. We'll go all the way and have a look. I mean, I can already see we've got some serious embossing going on. Yeah, can you see? So we will peel to reveal a beautiful print. So really, really lovely, crisp print, crisp embossing. That is ace. So let's remove that plate and do the same with the Drypoint. So again, the embossing looks good. I'm just going to do it. Wow. I mean, that could even have less pressure with that. I'd say that's, I mean, those are gorgeous lines. That is super dark, super crisp print. So we'll put that there and do the last one, which is the etching plate. Look at that, beautiful embossing and a beautiful etching. So what we'll do now is have a little look at all of the prints next to each other and have a little kind of roundup of pros and cons, and then yeah, you got to get printing. You can see that they are all very comparable. I would even say that the Cuttlebug ones that are lighter was to do with, I could have got even more inking on them. So if you had a Cuttlebug and you wanted a dark print, but you were only getting light prints, you need to adjust your inking. I could have left more ink on and wiped off less so that I would have got a darker print. The Xcut, this I would say is too much pressure. I could have loosened the pressure a little bit to get more subtle marks. So it's all subjective. It's all trial and error. But as you can see, they are all comparable to a traditional big heavy etching press, and I'm getting amazing results. And I would just keep playing with what I've got. So just wanted to say thank you for watching, you know, and play would be my real advice to you. I do a lot of printmaking, so I've just tried some of these things out for you, but I'm not the you know, the be all and end all. Other artists do different ways. Have a look. Always do your research. You know, there's loads of artists using all these different machines, and you'll pick something up from everyone. But I hope I've shown you, you know, what possibilities there are from these inexpensive machines. And yeah, have fun playing, because that is the joy of being an artist, isn't it? Just playing and learning and happy accidents, and basically have fun. See you soon.